Hello, Mech fans. This is Duncan Fisher. Hold on firmly to your mana potions, fireballs, and familiars, because you are tuning in to your regularly scheduled episode of the First Circuit Podcast.
Hello and welcome everyone to another weird side episode of the First Circuit Podcast, episode 143. It's just me, one of your regular hosts, Biter, and we also have an old Bob here.
Oh, Bob. Hey, I'm here.
Hello.
I'm
we
here.
have so the first things first, at least, is to touch on is the April changes are coming on the 20th. I think there was plans to do a PTS, but in the end, PGI found they just couldn't spare the resources to do it, and so I think they've reached out to the community group, the Cauldron, and they quite quickly, according to what could actually be quickly modded into the game using XML files, put in as many of the changes that they sort of had envisioned as humanly possible for weapon balance, at least reasonably possible in the time. And yeah, this came together very quickly. At least it's a huge long post on the website, and we have to find some way to quickly go through it. So at least I have put together a spreadsheet thingy, which I'll be using to try and keep track of all the changes throughout the months. And I've done one for all the April changes, which I think Bob at least has put up on screen for us right now, which is nice. All right. So without much further ado, let's get cracking with, I think, what would actually be normally at the bottom of the list, which would just be equipment changes.
Okay, yeah.
AMS, they have greatly increased the amount of ammo regular AMS has, like an extra 60% ammo or so.
Oh, really?
And
okay, that's actually better because I use a lot of that. So yeah.
Yeah, it would mean like if you have half a ton, it's almost as good as a whole ton right now, or at least it feels like that. So particularly on IS, it feels a lot easier, sort of perhaps slotting that in. And for Clan, you're only really worrying about slots anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've also removed the AMS ammo explosion entirely.
No, I didn't know that actually. That was part of the Cauldron. That was the full thing about it.
Yeah, that's the intention, so that instead of, like, if you have a whole ton of unused ammo, it right now explodes for 52 damage, which depending on, like, for Clan you might lose a component, but for IS that can really screw over your day. 50 damage, that's pretty bad. And so AMS is like, it doesn't feel worth using case for AMS, but anyway, the point is regular AMS has way more endurance, and if you take ammo you don't have to worry about it blowing up at all, so there's a huge usability benefit.
Do you know why they did that though? You know why, like, it was put in place?
To just make it more easy to use AMS. There's a lot to read through, and I read through it a few weeks ago. But the obvious intention is just to make it easier to justify taking AMS on your mechs.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, the same, but by the way, goes for laser AMS. When it's firing, it puts in like 2.65 heat per second, and that's been reduced to 1. So a huge reduction in your heat from laser AMS, making it actually an interesting choice. I mean, ammo is now not so much a problem with regular AMS, but infinite ammo laser AMS, it's the same as like firing a flamer, rather than firing like 3 flamers.
Yeah, I think with my anti-missile build with my Puma, if that's what it's called, I think that's a clan name for it. The Puma, I guess. Use 1 laser anti-missile system and 2 normal like AMS. So this is gonna increase it tenfold, man. This is great. I can't wait for this.
Kit Fox, or
no,
there's the Nova,
the Blackhawk. Yeah, Blackhawk and the Nova. The Blackhawk and Nova. So yeah.
Yeah, because right now, at least, if you have the Piranha with like 4 laser AMS, sometimes it's all just heat sinks and like one small laser, because you have so much heat generation that the initial implementation meant that laser AMS kind of killed you, and it was not really worth taking. So again, just greater usability for AMSs. These are great to justify AMS, but this feeds into the missile balance changes and missile balance in general, which is just the question of how AMS works in the game. to cut it all down very briefly, at least, I really don't like, of course, if you're taking a missile boat, particularly a smaller one like a light or a medium, when you enter a match, it's a roll of the dice depending on how many missiles are on your team and how much AMS is on the enemy team.
Yeah.
And as we make AMS more and more viable and much more easier to take, then you're just going to see more AMS on the field, and your missiles are getting shot down more and more often.
Look, I'm sure they'll probably, if they see that happening, though, I'm pretty sure they'll kind of tweak it just a little bit for that.
The tricky thing is just simply AMS is the way it's put in game is always just shoot down X number of missiles. Shooting down, 5 missiles or whatever is not a problem if you're shooting down an assault mech volley of missiles.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're shooting down 5 missiles of a light mech, that's half their alpha strike.
Yeah.
And you can help smaller missile launchers, but the tricky thing is smaller mechs don't always have lots of missile hardpoints.
Yeah.
So they can't boat a crazy amount. Like think of the Raven 3L or something. It has only 2 missile hardpoints. It's a light mech. You don't really want to take 2 SRM2s or 2 LRM5s on that thing. It's just not worth your time. If you're going to boat missiles, or 2 MRM10s, if you're going to boat missiles, you boated a half decent amount of them. So in the long run, at least, hopefully we can code some fix to AMS to make it sort of feel fair and reduce the inconsistency issues with missiles. Because with both this patch and PGI's patches, we're always sort of, we'll help missiles. We'll help AMS. We'll help missiles. But some missile weapons get left behind, and as you make AMS more and more prevalent and useful and easy to equip, light mechs, smaller mechs are falling behind further and further and further because of how AMS is implemented right now. Yeah. All right, next usability thing, and this is a big one for IS builds, is just case now weighs 0 tons.
Interesting. Okay.
And it can be placed in the arms and legs. I love this change. It's very good.
Now, I forgot if that's actually part of lore, that they can do that. Like, is that later on in the timeline, or is that just because I know clans can have it like in they want to, but I don't know when the IS actually got their case put in there. Basically, I'm not really sure.
Case was invented by at least case as a half-ton component.
Yeah.
Is certainly lore. I know about that. Whether you put it in the arms or legs, I am not sure in terms of tabletop rules or anything like that. It is at least for IS. It's supposed to be half a ton because you're sort of, it's a conversion to battle mechs.
Yeah.
You're taking a car and you're actually putting in some extra stuff which takes up space and tonnage. With clan mechs, I know at least most particularly at least Omni mechs, the point is that they're separate little bits. That the arm is its own self-contained, its own omnipod, and so that has case. But all the other bits, even clan battle mechs, I think, have every component is case protected for free.
They do. Yeah, they do.
So IS is always lag behind in regards to vulnerability, in regards to like ammo explosions, and so weighing 0 tons means all you are spending is slots, which is brilliant. Case was a rare niche case that sometimes you felt like you were worth taking the tonnage, but now it weighs nothing. All it takes is slots. I don't think case actually helps with crit padding or anything like that. Slots are still a valuable resource, but there were always issues like with the Atlas, for example, that you would have 2 energy in the CT, have an LB20 or heavy Gauss in the side torso, and a huge amount of MRMs in the other side torso.
Yeah.
So where do you store your ammo? Well, there's space in the legs, there's space in the head. That's 5 tons of ammo, and we're running out maybe in the side torsos, but those have a chance of blowing up. Blah blah blah. Oh, I'll put them in the arms, but sometimes the arm gets blown off or the side torso gets blown off, and you roll an ammo explosion in the arm, and it just kills your whole mech.
Yeah.
So, if you have slots to spare, you can now like chuck your ammo in the arm and put case on it and save your mech from random ammo explosions. So, random ammo explosions are always just sort of it's just a weird RNG mechanic that IS has to sort of live with, but now it's so much easier to build around it, and I am a big fan of this change. Old case only protected your CT. You still lost a side torso, and that sucked.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of this. This is actually cool. Yeah, basically, like it only being a slot. That's way more tougher than actually tonnage. Why? It's because Because like you have like your armor, and that takes 14, like depending on like what type it is, like either half a ton or like half or like full basically 14 slots. And so slots is one of the main things about building your mechs is do you have enough room to put this in there? And so this is actually
Yeah.
make people think, and no tonnage. That's cool. I definitely do like this. Good, it's a good change.
Case in the leg is interesting because you only have 1 ton,
Yeah,
but at least it won't kill your whole mech when they shoot your legs off. So you can put ammo in the legs of your light mechs if they have enough slots, and they won't. The whole mech won't explode when your leg's blown off.
yeah, true,
Um,
true.
which is nice in a way because that way you don't have to put the ammo next to the XL engine. But then again, you still will probably want more than just 2 tons of ammo. Anyway, that's a great usability change. Right next, half the mask fill rate and increase the threshold to 85%. So a key thing actually I forgot to mention is that what is it? Last month's patch, March patch, they're completely it's clicking the undo button and they're putting these changes on top. So we're not going to have the reduced agility. Mask is just a magic more agility button. All mechs will turn faster, start and stop faster, all the usual jazz before, but now it takes twice as long for the bar to fill.
Okay, okay. So,
Now,
and they didn't
yeah.
change the time or anything, as far as how long you can use it. They just changed how long it like regenerates, right?
So it
Right.
says the interpretation I have is they're talking about fill rate, but not empty rate.
Okay.
So
Okay.
very, very simple numbers that say before it took 10 seconds to reach max and it took 10 seconds to empty. Well, now it'll take 20 seconds to reach max, and well, now it'll take 20 seconds to empty, I think. Oh, it's the same rate.
Yeah, they doubled it then, right?
Yeah, because it's the same empty, so it should still be 10 to empty. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so it's the same empty rate. 20 to fill and then 10 to empty. So you have a lot more sprint time and there's a lot less gaps in between. There's also the threshold that they talk about, which is it isn't actually 10 seconds. It's 10 to get to 100%, but you start taking damage above 75.
Oh, okay.
Well, now
Okay.
you start taking damage above 85%. So instead of 7.5 seconds, it's now 16, almost 17 seconds fill time, so
Hmm.
to speak, using the simplified numbers. I do have the equipment overview, so let me just check. The old fill time was 8.3 seconds, and now it's 19 seconds.
Hmm. Okay.
So more than double. Beautiful. 230% more time to hold down the magic get agility button.
Okay.
The only exception to this, by the way, is fleas. Mask 1 on fleas, in the only mech that uses it, they still only fill out the bar in 9 seconds, or 10 seconds a bit now. So fleas don't have as much bar to use with, but they are one of the stronger mask mechs in the game right now. So them being omitted does actually make some good sense.
Well, I know, like in with like quirks and stuff like that, certain mechs were used specifically with mask. I wonder if they're going to change it so certain mechs will have more time with mask or something like that. I'm not sure if they would do that though.
Yeah, it all depends on if they even could have a quirk for that. As
Yeah.
far as I'm
Yeah.
aware, it's just mask is a piece of equipment in the game. It's like having a mech that allows ECM that you can. There's usually not quirks associated with ECM, at least that are innate to mechs.
Yeah.
Though
Yeah.
even then, oh, but the thing is, what I've heard is at least they can use basically anything in the skill tree could be implemented rather easily as a quirk.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
ECM nodes could be innate and save you a whole bunch of skill points when you equip an ECM mech. But mask, there's no quirks with mask.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah. Anyway,
Cool.
cracking on, we have plenty to touch on.
Hmm.
This is the biggest change of the entire patch, and kind of why I wanted to talk about equipment changes first. The most popular weapon in the game, of course, being artillery strikes.
Fireballs.
That magic fireballs that do huge amounts of RNG damage to blobs of enemy mechs, and very little chance to dodge out of the way. And in particular, if you're a smaller mech like a light mech, it can kill you in one or two hits.
Hmm.
And even assault mechs are taking 30% damage right now, which is ridiculous. The change they're doing is they're saying, okay, every shell doesn't do 15 damage, it does 5 damage. So 33% damage. So it's not nuking people anymore.
Wow.
The duration and obviously the number of shells over that duration, it has doubled, so to speak. So the strike takes twice as long to play out, and therefore more missiles are thrown. These missiles are weaker, and overall the RT strike is doing less damage. But yeah, this is a great change. It reduces the nukiness of RT strikes, but it means they stay on the field instead of like
Yeah, for
what was it
I
originally?
think like 4 seconds, and basically you got a couple bombs, but now it's gonna be like it's gonna be
Yeah.
8 to 10 seconds. But the bomb, see, like with people that know about that, they're gonna say, okay, well, like whatever, it's only 5 points damage. I'm gonna stay in this now. But it's gonna be longer. It's gonna be almost the same stuff, but yeah, I get it. I get it now. It's
Yeah,
cool. I actually like this. I do like this. This is a good change. Very good change.
this is the best change of the whole thing because it's this was one of the worst parts of the game, and it particularly undervalued all the rest of the weapon balance because just RT Strike provides such amazing
Damage.
risk reward and
Yeah.
damage, all that. It waters down the entire game. Now though, you can place an RT Strike, and for like 6 or so seconds, it will deny an area to the enemy, and if they stay there, they will take a few hits. But at least now, assault mechs actually can get out of the area in 6 seconds.
Yeah,
It
true,
means
true.
light mechs can get out of the area. You have time to respond. So this is by far the best change in the entire patch. I'm the biggest fan of this.
This is good, actually. Yeah, true. I mean, it does kind of screw up my Pirate's Bane, because the main thing is like I run around in the background and start dropping some arty strikes and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
you can't choose the
yeah,
game. Oh no.
yeah, like I can't choose the game anymore. But oh well.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have to use the strikes more tactically. If
Yeah,
you place them at a choke point, the enemy can't go through the choke point for like 6 seconds or so, because they don't want to take the free damage. Even if it's lighter damage, it's still damage and
yeah.
it's still splatting you. Um, yeah, so you have to be much more careful with your strikes. I think I don't know how the mechanics exactly work, but if strikes take longer to pan out, that might mean strikes in general, like there's a universal cooldown, so it might mean it's harder for everybody to get all their strikes out. They have to
Might
go
be.
through them, and
Yeah.
yeah, I would hope that is somewhat of a knock-on effect because you sometimes have at least because each strike is only like 3 seconds. You have this thing where it's just like strike, 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 strike from all the enemy team.
Yeah.
In 30 seconds, there's 10 strikes thrown in your location, and it's just a nightmare trying to move out of the way because they land and instantly do that damage. If over 30 seconds you only get hit by 5 strikes instead of 10, and the damage of the shells is less, they're still getting some free damage on you, but it's a lot lighter, and you're able to get out of the way. It forces you to move rather than just forcing you to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so beautiful change. They've also addressed airstrikes. Instead of doing 15 damage, they do 10. So they still hit fairly hard, but not as much. But they have increased the number of bombs, so it forms a longer line than it did before.
Well, I know there's a way before when they changed it, there was a longer line, and people didn't like that. But I guess if they changed the
Yep.
damage wise, it's going to be a little bit different because way back when it was a line halfway across the map. It was huge.
It used to be a 15 damage line that
Yeah.
would go so far that you just put it on the other side of the rock that the people were using, and it would just straight, and you couldn't see that it was coming, and it would just do a crazy amount of damage.
Yeah.
It will still hit like pretty hard, but yeah, airstrikes at least are nicer in the sense that they're more consistent. But I'm still not a fan in the sense that RT and airstrikes undermine the value of cover. In the long run, though, at least, particularly with RT, if you RT strike the cover, the opponent has a chance to get away. So you've denied them their cover, but you haven't just killed them for using cover.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it used to be, you were stupid for using cover in this game. Why aren't you joining the NASCAR? Join the. If you're trying to use cover to defend, what a moron! You're gonna get nuked.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now your cover's just going to be denied a little bit instead. And airstrikes will hit you more reliably, but a lot of people didn't really like taking airstrikes because of how fiddly they are. They actually require skill to use.
Yeah. Screw that skill. Just use Aries. Just use fireballs.
All right, let's go to the top left and just talk about energy changes. Quickly, small lasers. Small laser damage has gone up a notch, and their cooldowns are faster. So your small lasers will hit harder and hit more often. I have talked about this before on previous podcasts, but just basically, at least, this is the weapon you use often on like your alarm boats or whatever, and they were actually pretty good in the first place. So they're going to make it harder for mechs to jump on top of those mechs that have only small lasers as backup weapons. And small lasers also compete with like small pulse on the smaller mechs where you want to boat a large number of them. Just smalls are in a really good spot, and they got, or at least they're in a good spot, and they just got an extra little, nudge of 15% buff for their damage.
Is that
DPS.
damage per heat? DPH?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so damage per heat. So basically, the left column shows you, how much damage you're doing over time, and the right column, damage per heat, shows you how heat efficient the weapon is.
Okay.
So if you're getting 15% DPS and 15% damage per heat, it just means over time your smalls will be doing more damage, and it won't cost you as much heat to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Small pulse lasers, their numbers, as you can see, are kind of staying the same. DPS has gone up a smidge. This doesn't tell us the whole picture, though, because they're increasing their upfront damage. So you can get close and go pew, 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 and it does, an extra few more points of damage with your small pulse boat that you were insane enough to take. This is in the right direction. Small pulse certainly needs help in their upfront damage. The trickiest thing, though, is honestly, small pulse is one of the most ineffectual inner sphere energy weapons right now. It's really struggling to find a place, and its most direct competition with smalls or ER smalls just got even better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good change in the right direction. I think small pulse needs a lot more love. All right, medium lasers. Their heat got addressed a bit, and their cooldowns got touched a little bit. So a little bit of buffs here and there. ER medium lasers. I have always said, at least, that they're a bit too hot for what they do. A lot of other people tell me, "Oh, I love using my ER medium lasers," and then slowly over time, I see that they don't use them. So I always loved being able to smugly go, haha, well, I use regular medium lasers. But yeah, ER mediums were a bit too hot for the extra range you're getting, and that heat damage per heat is being addressed. But these changes are fine. They're fairly minor, and they could do with just a little touch up. Right. Large lasers. Whole bunch of changes for the large lasers. Regular inner sphere large lasers, their cooldown is being increased, but the duration is being decreased. So you don't have to hold your laser on target for quite as long, but you have to wait longer in between volleys.
And then it also includes a skill that you could have too, right? For the laser duration, you could add that to it.
Yeah. You could always do laser duration nodes.
Okay.
It was just it's easier to focus your damage onto a component when you have a lower base of duration.
Yeah,
it's the difference between regular lasers and pulse lasers, obviously. Overall, though, this just means the DPS of regular larges goes down. Regular larges are they're not necessarily the bestest, but they're also not bad either, particularly if you boat them. And the biggest change, interestingly, is you can, at the top right here is a note, you can fire 4 large lasers together without ghost heat.
That's interesting. That's gonna be that means those grasshoppers will be working pretty well now.
And I don't think the ghost heat is too crazy. Like, you could take almost like 5 large lasers and have a mini Giga Drill.
Yeah.
This will be a very interesting change to check out. The damage for heat is slightly improved with them, blah blah blah. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
It's an interesting change. I'll say that, and it at least balances out the fact you can boat them more with their DPS being a bit lower. Because large lasers are pushing out PPCs, ER larges, large pulse, because they're just so damn versatile. But then again, 4 large lasers together increases their versatility, so you never know.
Okay.
All right. ER large lasers, their huge cooldown is actually being knocked down a bit, and their damage per heat is being improved a bit. So, yep, this is good. ER large lasers, at least in quick play. I'm not a fan of them. They just feel too hot for what they do. You need a lot of time to actually get full value out of them, and you're often better off with larges.
Yeah, basically also too, it's like you can't, you're just kind of spraying, praying, basically trying to get at least a hit with it, kind of just going like this, please hit, that type thing. So yeah, true.
Yeah. So ER larges certainly needed love, some attention. I think their duration is the same. It's just the time you're waiting between volleys is not so crazy, and in fact their cooldown is a little bit faster, so to speak. Then. regular
Okay.
larges.
Okay.
They've also, for what it's worth, slightly improved their range.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a tiny buff. It's just use them at range like you usually do. All right. Large pulse lasers.
Yay.
They got touched up a bit, so more actual upfront damage, so more DPS and much more heat efficiency. Large pulse lasers were only a smidge more heat efficient than large lasers. So it was like, all right, I take a large laser, I add 2 tons to it. Its duration has gone down, sure, but its range has also gone down, and it's not exactly more heat efficient. It's just now it's way hotter to use because it's a higher DPS. So, yeah. Fan of the large pulse lasers, it certainly needed help. The game has moved on quite a ways when large pulse lasers used to be meta,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
they certainly need some help to catch back up. They've been too many nerfs in the past. All right. To finish off inner sphere energy weapons, let's talk about PPCs. All right. PPCs, we're of course, just to remind everyone, we're undoing the changes from before. So it's not 7 seconds, it's like 4-second cooldown for most of these. Snub nose, all we're doing is changing the heat. It's going down, like instead of 10 heat, it's 7 heat. It's like 30% decrease to the heat, which helps your heat efficiency immensely.
Yeah. This would be good for some of my builds, which would be really nice.
Yeah, with brawlers, you're up close to the enemy, and getting hot means you kind of don't want to be close to the enemy anymore.
Yeah.
And Snubnose wants you to get close and wants you to get hot. So it just made no sense from a MWO's perspective for Snubnose to be so darn hot. And so addressing just the heat damage per heat is the right way to go. They also have changed it so that you can fire 3 snubs together without
3
ghost heat.
PPCs.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen with the there's an awesome with the 3 ghost heat thing, or they make that 4,
So
or what's gonna go with that?
the thing is phrased, at least it says +1. So this means on that also you could probably equip 4 Snubnose, fire them all together without ghost heat. This means you effectively have 2 AC20.
I'm not a fan of that, but it's part of it. It's a lore thing, I guess. But
What do you mean?
it like according to lore, they never really had 3 like 4 PPCs like on an awesome like that. It was always 3. That's why you actually had the quirk for it. I forget what type of awesome it was actually. So now basically you got 4, but it's like you sit there. Well, it's not really lore-ish per se. But
there is an awesome
with
that
4,
has and later with more than 4, like 5 PPCs or something.
no, basically what I'm talking about though is a certain builds for it. Like
the lore build
lore
for that
builds.
particular awesome variant is just three regular PPCs.
Yeah.
And that was interpreted as, oh, well, you're allowed 3 heavy PPCs or 3 snubs or whatever. But now
it just makes it so like it kind of cheeses it out just a little bit, but I don't know, it's okay, it's fine.
I think
if that's the only thing I could complain about lore of this is actually pretty good. So
yeah,
it's okay.
I mean, that could certainly be touched on. The question is, is 4 Snubnose overpowered? And the answer is simply, you could take 2 heavy Gorse. No.
yeah, I know. Yeah, true.
And 4 Snubnose is still going to be pretty hot and heavy. So, if you specialize this much, you should have that kind of pinpoint damage at close range as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's totally fine, more or less. There is a thing with how Ghost Heat works that PPCs are linked to Gorse rifles, so you could fire like 2 Gorse rifles and a snub or something, maybe. I need to see how it actually plays in game because I'm not sure how all the Ghost Heat rules work, particularly since it hasn't been implemented. But it could mean 2 heavy Gorse plus snub is as an alpha strike. And that would be good, a good close range combination. The worry with Gorse rifles plus PPCs and their Ghost Heat limits more comes into play with PPCs, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Because but yeah. Anyway, quickly, snub, close range weapon, heat efficiency buff, can fire more of them together. Good. Just helps you brawl with them more, easily. Regular PPCs, they also have 3 as the base Ghost Heat limit now. And their heat damage per heat is slightly touched up. I don't think regular PPCs were that good, at least so they did need some help. I don't think the boating change is the best, just in the sense it doesn't encourage me to take it on my Panther. It just encourages it for me to take 4 of them on my Awesome, so to speak.
Actually, with the Panther though, it's a little bit different though,
But
because
yeah,
you can actually get away from them though.
it's a fine enough change. I'll be interested to see how it plays out. You could do a lot more sniper builds with this.
Well,
2 PPCs and a Gauss rifle on a Warhammer or something like that.
well, yeah, like with the Panther though, you could actually get out of range because it has a 90 minimum range. But with an Awesome though, I've always found that running PPCs on an Awesome, you're literally all they gotta do is run up on you and go, oh, he has PPCs. But with a Panther, you could jump up and go shoot him from 90 away or something like that.
Yeah, I have a feeling, at least for the time being, regular PPCs won't change really, right?
No,
You won't use them much. People experiment, but go, yeah, there's totally downsides. It's too heavy. Boating them with more of them, or boating them with Gauss, just isn't worth all the tonnage.
Yeah,
I'm still way behind Clan PPC. So
true.
yeah, it's an interesting change, but yeah, I think it's not a bit ineffectual. But yeah, all right. Next one though, the most interesting one of all, or at least most interesting next to Snub, is light PPCs. Their cooldown is greatly reduced. Their heat efficiency is also improved, and they will have no minimum range.
Ooh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So that big downside with regular PPCs is not there for light PPCs. They still go to 550 meters range and whatnot. And if somebody gets really close to you, you can still shoot them. So this will help encourage them to be used as a backup weapon.
Okay.
Yeah. I think light PPCs, it's a really funky question because it's like they're so heavy for the damage they do, and they're going to be even hotter because their DPS is even better now. So taking a light PPC is a lot of tonnage investment, 3 tons for a weapon that gets your mech pretty darn hot.
But it looks cool.
And it
looks cool. Man.
It's an interesting option, I think, at the very least. But right now, light PPCs just don't have any place in the game whatsoever, more or less. And with these changes, you can get a really good amount of DPS for very good DPS for PPCs for not as much tonnage.
Yeah.
And there's no minimum range issues.
Okay.
So yeah, the thing is though, they're always so there's a lot of slots and hard points needed for light PPCs. So I'll be interested though. Like you could take it on a Panther, a lot of them, and crank out a crazy amount of DPS with it. It's just the heat will be crazy. Also, an interesting utility with no minimum range is this would be one of the few useful weapons to be paired with Streak against stealth mechs.
With streaks?
Yes. You see, if a stealth flea gets point blank with a streak mech, what can the streak mech do?
Well, destroy him with with streaks.
No, the stealth.
Oh, okay.
Jams.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. The PPC does jam
stealth,
it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the stealth jams the streak mech, which means you can't get any locks, so you can't hurt anyone anymore. Your tag is disabled, so you can't use that. Your probe doesn't work on a mech when its stealth is on.
Yeah, true.
So your only counters are right now ERPPCs, which is 6 to 7 tons, and you have to hit it, with that 4-second cooldown, or a narc with its 7-second cooldown and unreliable projectile. So for Inner you spend 3 tons and you have a fast-firing little PPC that cancels stealth mechs.
Okay.
That is interesting.
Yeah, actually, that makes sense. Good thing. Okay.
Very niche application, I will be honest, but it's way more useful than blooming tag. So
yeah,
I'm interested to try out that combination. I think a lot of people won't be used to it, but it will be a great way to increase the consistency of streaks. All right, heavy PPCs, we just increased the damage for heat a bit. ERPPCs, similar kind of story.
Yeah.
They're a lot less punishing to run. ERPPCs, I think, certainly needed the help. And heavy PPCs, there's always the risk of giant alpha strikes with them added to medium lasers.
Okay.
And the heat damage per heat being improved just means it's easier to keep that up, and it's easier to justify in your head. So have to be a little careful with heavy PPCs. They've been overpowered in the past. Just Grasshopper, 2 heavy PPCs and a bunch of medium lasers. But yeah, in the end, let's get on with it. Regular inner-sphere laser changes, all in all, not bad. There's a bit of power creep with small lasers and medium lasers, maybe with larges, and maybe with some, boating of PPCs. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of the snub changes, the light PPC changes, LPL, ER. Like, there's a lot of weapons here that needed help that did get it.
Yeah.
Other than small pulse, small pulse.
I'm a fan of that because it totally nerfed a lot of my builds with the last patch, the March patch, and so it's gonna be good. I'm gonna like this. This is fine. I
Yep.
won't have to go through my builds to spend 20 million to go and modify them like crap.
I think I'm very keen to see if there's some good boating of lasers or PPCs that can be done, just because they're much more efficient now. So like, will my large pulse, a mech, can I convert some mechs to large pulse, and will a large pulse feel worthwhile nowadays?
Mm-hmm.
Snub nose, use those on some more brawlers. Some more point blank mechs like PPC, as I said, just try it on my small light mechs, try it on my street mechs. PPC. There's a lot more build options that have opened up, and whilst they might not all be top tier competitive meta, I have a feeling at least this will help improve build diversity, or how happy you are trying out different things, at least for a time.
Yeah.
Until we find out who are the winners and who are the losers, because this whole thing is such a huge patch. It's really hard to tell who's going to be the winners and losers in at least a lot of categories.
True.
All right, let's go to what? Let's do clan energy then.
Yep.
No ghost heat whatsoever for micro lasers or micro pulse.
Okay.
All right,
That's good.
it's a good change in a way.
Mhm.
If you want to boat micro pulse, if you remember, Bob, when we did Nova
Yeah,
rushes
yeah,
with
that's what I
micro
was
pulse
thinking about.
lasers,
Yeah,
you always had to fire one arm or the other, or you mixed like the micro pulses with small pulses
yeah,
so that you could alpha, and it was just so fiddly and annoying. I mean, and the ghost heat wasn't even that much. It was just a bother. It was a nuisance. It's a fly that was just hovering over your head, PGI going, I don't like this.
yeah. This is gonna be interesting. I'm gonna love rebuilding my Nova.
We can't do the 12 Nova rushes anymore, though.
I
You have to
know.
actually get to point blank range to use that many micro lasers.
Still. I mean, you get in that range with a leg hit. I mean,
Yeah.
12 micro pulse lasers. Come on, that's be insane.
Yeah. So, yep, that's really nice. It gets a fly, the fly that was in the ointment. Why do we need that? Get rid of it. Micro pulse lasers have also got a DPS, a damage per heat buff, because they weren't always exactly worth the investment unless you were taking something crazy like a 12 Nova micro pulse rush.
Yeah. True.
All right, small lasers. We have slight DPS increases, or like duration decreases, I think, for smalls and heavy smalls, and clan ER smalls have a great damage per heat improvement.
Okay.
That is quite interesting because clan smalls, of course, have the 200-meter range, 5 damage, and there's a lot of clan lights and mediums, and even assault mechs and whatnot that can boat a lot of small lasers. And creeping up their power, they are falling behind, that you don't see people take them too often. But just like with inner sphere small lasers taking as backup weapons for their LRM boats, clan sometimes, people will just take an energy brick arm on the Stormcrow and try and melt you with small lasers, and they won't cook themselves quite as much as they used to.
True.
So you have to keep a little eye out for it, but it's small lasers. It's not much of a concern. At least I'm not too concerned. Small pulse, they redress the damage a bit, just like with inner sphere pulse, so that the upfront damage is more, but the DPS remains about the same. Damage for heat, though, is not so much. So your 6 small pulse Arctic Cheetah won't cook itself to death so much as it tries to get out its meager DPS. Yeah, I'm a fan of this change in a way. I would, just like with Innosphere Small Pulse, I would give Clan Small Pulse even more love on the DPS front and stuff. But
Yeah.
This is good stuff. Right. Clan medium lasers and heavy lasers, they're getting 10% or so damage per second improvement, and even 15% damage per heat on regular medium lasers. That is worrying, just in the sense, of course, very small changes to Clan Laser Vomit. Because, by the way, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, like, ER medium lasers is the standard laser for pretty much almost every mech
Yes.
that's out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is gonna be when you start tweaking these numbers, it's gonna be different. It's something's gonna happen. So
Yeah, Clan Medium Laser has some of the farthest reaching effects in the game. You use it on the smaller mechs that are struggling right now, but you use it on the Hellbringers, you use it on the bigger Warhammer 2Cs or what have you, that you can boat a lot of mediums and larges together, and their heat efficiency and DPS is going up a peg. And yeah, I'm worried that these will overflow the meta a little bit, because this, along
maybe.
with
Yeah.
the damage per heat of like large lasers or heavy large lasers, that Hellbringer could very much become storming back into the meta with these changes.
Yeah, true.
We'll have to wait and see, but yeah, this is, I think, one of the bigger winners right here. Is just 10-15% buff to DPS and damage per heat of Clan Medium Laser. This is such a weapon you can use across the board and boat in a huge, for fairly big alpha strikes across long range. It's just so much versatility in Clan Medium Lasers. They, by proxy, push other weapons to the side. Why would I use an MRM boat when, at 400 meters, the Clan Medium Lasers and heavy larges are just melting through CTs, instantly.
Yeah.
Whereas my MRMs are splatting all over the place. There's projectile time. It's getting shot down by the easier to take AMS, blah, blah, blah. Clan mediums can very easily, because of their versatility, push everything else out of the game. So,
yeah. Okay.
Keep an eye on this space. Clan medium pulse lasers, very interesting set of changes. All the clan pulse, by the way, they are generally getting their range reduced a bit, but their max range is now going to be double their optimum, rather than the weird 1.3 or 1.66 times optimum range that was before. Like, Clan Pulse damage dropped off very quickly. So Clan Medium Pulse lasers, optimum range, 270 meters. Just like Inner Sphere medium lasers, just regular medium lasers.
Okay.
But to compensate, they are being given DPS and damage per heat. I think Clan Medium Pulse has very much fallen out of the meta after their damage nerf, and they are getting a bit of damage back as well. So, but their range is not as crazy as it used to be. And this, I think, is the proper give and take that you should sort of see with Clan lasers, is that you toned back their versatility in regards to range, but you give them the damage per heat and the damage per second to compensate, to make them more specialized. You're only spending a ton or 2 tons to get these weapons. Why are they, offering great DPS and damage per heat at longer ranges? So yeah, I'm a big fan of the MPL change, in a way that if we were doing these medium lasers changes with all this improvement to medium laser, like, you could tone down the medium laser range a smidge, and that would help them with their oppressive, the way that they sometimes take over the meta with their range.
True. Yeah,
all right.
large lasers, interesting.
Heavy large lasers, they've given it a bump up in its initial damage, and I think its duration is going down as well.
Thank God. Jeez, that was hard to actually keep on target. Like sometimes.
So this means the heat over time is going to be higher for heavy larges, but you are getting 20% more damage per second and 13% more damage per heat.
Yeah, that the oh God, the laser boat, it's gonna be crazy. Yeah, that's be crazy.
Yeah, it's along with the medium lasers with their better DPS and whatnot, could very well melt through people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see this happening. I definitely do. Something like that'll make that thing a meta like there's no tomorrow, and they're gonna be all over the place running around.
Right now, yeah, things are really much dominated by, obviously UAC 10, UAC 5 boats, or PPC boats, and maybe sometimes also like ATM boating. Like, large lasers and medium lasers on Clan have sort of been pushed to the side, but they are just ever so slightly to the side. If you give them these buffs, they could come back full force. And the funny nature of Clan is just, if one weapon's optimal, then everything becomes that weapon.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I would be a bit more cautious with these changes and laser boating. Clan ER larges, the damage per second is actually going down, just like with Inner Sphere regular larges. But your damage per heat is going up immensely. So heavy larges offer you the short range, huge damage whack, and they have a good damage over time. Whereas the ER larges offer a more of a long ranged, pokey game that's more heat efficient. And I do like that they're being split out because both kind of did the same role, or at least were very comparable before these changes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think clan ER large lasers, their optimal range and stuff is being slightly improved, but it's only a tiny little improvements and stuff. Right, large pulse lasers, a whole host of changes. I think more upfront damage, a bit more upfront damage, shorter duration, so you're not spending so long going whoop 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 whoop.
Yeah.
And the heat is getting addressed. So your optimal range would be 550, but obviously that means you could reach 1,000 meters range with large pulses again.
It's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
large pulses, they compete, you're spending 6 tons and 2 slots very much with ERPPCs. And the time they were meta was a very different game. So they did certainly need some help. And I think, if there was any weapons that warranted a, 15% improvement to the damage per heat and DPS, it would be LPLs rather than things like heavy large lasers.
Okay. Yeah.
They've also increased the ghost heat. So you can fire 3 clan large pulse lasers together without ghost heat. And the ghost heat, if you fire even more, is reduced when using large pulse.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it because obviously, like, if I have my Vapor Eagle with 3 PPCs, that thing is just so amazing. Why would I change it out to be 3 large pulse? Well, I would take 3 large pulse because I'm also matching it with medium lasers, perhaps, and I'm holding my aim on target anyway, and I don't need to worry about projectiles. But only time will tell. We'll see how this.
Well, we'll
large
see
pulse
after the
laser.
patch. We'll see after the
Yeah.
patch like how this works.
In the end, this is fine because large pulse is, it needs a bump.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. We'll leave missiles to last, and we'll go with IS Daka.
And what about like interfering with like missiles and clan missiles?
Well, I said leave that to last just because missile balance is the
Oh, okay.
most fiddly topic to talk
Okay.
about. To
Sorry, I
be
didn't hear
honest.
like we'll leave this to last. It's like
Yeah, we'll leave it to
okay.
last.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Because Daka, we can hopefully keep up a reasonable pace like we've been doing, which is Rack 5 has gotten a whole host of buffs. Now,
It needed it. It really did because no one really used it, and they all used like rack 2s, and so basically it needed something to go ahead and have people start using it again.
So I would say Rack 5s were always sort of they were on the cusp of being good. Like I like it on the rifleman with the rack quirk.
Yeah.
But even then, it's a blooming rifleman. It's not winning the meta. But the point is, Rack 5s do produce a prestigious amount of DPS, just like Rack 2s, and you spend less tonnage to equip it, less hard points to equip it. You're spending more slots, but it is what they're doing though is they're improving its heat efficiency, they're improving its spread, they're improving its velocity by a big amount, and the ramp up, like the time you fire before you have a jam, is also going to be 8 seconds. So it's 6 seconds for Rack 5s right now, and after the patch, Rack 2s and Rack 5s will take 8 seconds to reach the bar max before you start rolling for jams.
So it's gonna basically be on par with rack 2s. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, this, it will be on par for Rack 2s. More DPS offered for less tonnage is quite scary, and Rack 2s are actually in a very good spot. So, this is the other weapon systems to keep an eye out for, in my personal opinion. Clan Laser Vomit getting quite strong buffs, and that could very well turn over the meta. But Rack 5s, at least in lower tiers, where all you need to do is find a mech and hold a button on them,
Yeah.
they'll probably have a much nicer time shredding people at lower tiers if you know a little bit of what you're doing.
True.
So
True.
that's one to keep an eye out for. I am looking forward after this patch, just taking some Rack 5 mechs and just trying to mow down the clan laser vomit because we'll need it.
Yeah.
All right. They are touching up UACs by changing their jam chances and stuff and their heat as well. So UAC 2s, the DPS is going up by roughly about 117% if we're not factoring in skill tree. or jam quirks or anything like that. It gets really complicated figuring out what UAC jam damage effectively is in game. But anyway, the point is UAC 2s, UAC 20s, both damage per heat improvement, and UAC 2s are getting a huge improvement for their DPS.
Okay.
UAC 2, it has to compete with RAC 2s and RAC 5s now, and regular AC 2s, of course. It has there's a lot of competition for long range Daka, and yeah, its damage per second kind of sucked. Its damage per heat kind of sucked. It was just really hot and inefficient and not worth your time. So
I love
UAC 2s. Yeah.
Like I was just gonna say, this is just a, like, observation. I love how Warhammer 40k Orcs Daka got transformed into almost every game system when there's a lot of bullets coming out of it. So like it kind of sneaked into every different game system that's out there now.
Yeah. Okay. I just love saying Daka much more than ballistics. Ballistics is a bit of a mouthful.
Daka.
Yeah.
Okay. Go. Sorry.
Yeah. So UAC 20s, your damage per second is slightly improving because you're spending slightly less time jammed up. But the bigger thing is just you aren't cooking yourself so much when using Inner Sphere UAC 20. So yay. Regular ACs for Inner Sphere, other than AC2s, are getting a nice touch in heat. That's very nice. I don't think AC10s, one more slot and ton than there's also velocity improvements for the ACs. But AC10, like LB10 is 1 ton less and 1 slot less, and it rolls extra for crits and stuff. So I don't really see it coming up anywhere. AC5s, there's so much competition at long range. Rack 2, Rack 5, AC2, UAC 2, even UAC 5, Ultra 10. AC10, LB10, AC5s are, I almost never use AC5s nowadays, but it is what it is.
I rarely use those either, basically, unless it has a really, really good quirk on it or something like that.
Yeah. Even then, I wouldn't even bother with that. I just say racks are so good, I just almost wouldn't take them anyway. Or AC2s. If I have a good cooldown, I could just use AC2s instead and save on the tonnage and slots.
Yeah.
So many slots for these things. AC20, change people have been asking forever. And we finally got it. Heat scale limit is increased to 2. So, you can fire 2 together without ghost heat.
Oh, that's nice. That's good, especially for the clan one. For the I played the clan one, and I did a review on it, and literally every time I fired, I just overheated and shut down right in front of him. It's like, well, okay, this is stupid.
It's so stupid since you're also streaming shells with Clan Daka, AC, regular Clan ACs. But in a sphere, of course, this means 40 pinpoint alpha strike, greatly improves damage for heat, and greatly improved velocity. Like they are not going to be the slow moving balls of snot they used to be. So I think at least a lot of AC20 fans would be this could very well help AC20 usage in general. I'm very much looking forward to using them. It's just that the game has moved on so much. Like I'm almost always using just LB20 instead, or things like Heavy Gorse instead of AC20. But this is what you need to do to make AC20 viable.
I mean, the only time I used AC20 was on my Roughneck, basically for tournament play, basically like 1-on-1s, and that's the only time I really used it. I rarely use the normal AC20s on something.
AC20 is just, it's nice because you can sometimes put it in an arm or use it with a light engine.
Yeah.
And there's mechs quirked heavily for it. Kind of, I remember the Irby, that's not necessarily always the best example.
Or the Highlander. The Highlander is like quirked for it.
I think there's an Enforcer quirked for it, Highlander. Yeah, now
Centurion,
AC20... Yeah, AC20 won't cook you so much. You can fire 2 of them together, so King Crab can actually do its thing.
Yeah.
Finally, after all these years, King Crab can play like a king crab.
True. True.
Yep. Simple little thing to touch on. LB20 damage to heat is improved. Other thing to mention I have is not a DPS change exactly, but LB2s, LB5s, their spread is greatly reduced on both factions.
Okay.
Also, another law change is ISLB2s won't take 4 slots anymore. They will take 3.
Yeah, I saw that.
Regular AC2 is 1 slot. LB2 is 3 slot. It's still 3 times the slots for a little bit more crit and a little bit less heat. So IS, if you're boating AC2s, you're a heavier mech. Slots are precious, and this is what LB2 needs. But it's also, I don't know. I just feel like 2 slots is where I would have gone with LB2, because you're spending you're only spending only twice the slots. All right, let's get on to the Gorse changes. First, most trivial one is just regular Gorse. Slight improvement to its cooldown. It's a lot more longer range now. All the Gorse rifles are going to be much longer ranged. And the component's hit points are improved, so it's less likely to blow you up.
Good. That's good.
Though you will still blow up when it does.
Okay.
Heavy Gorse also has got an HP increase. Personally, at least by the way, at least regarding Gorse HP values, it's very quick to do enough damage to blow up any component in the game. Like if I take 2 LB10s, which have a lot of HP on my Sleipnir, they still fall apart very quickly. And the thing is, with the big problem with Light Gorse and regular Gorse and their HP is that Light Gorse does, 16 damage to you, and regular Gorse does 20 damage to you, and Clan Gorse does 25 or something to you.
Something like that, yeah.
It's a huge chunk of damage to your mech whenever these blow up.
Yeah.
And if you're worried, like if that's such a downside, I would say Light Gorse, when it blows up, it does, well, according to these changes, it should be 10 damage to you. Gorse is 15, and then Heavy Gorse is 25. The damage it does to you should be the same as the damage they do to enemies, basically.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not a big Goss person, so I don't really play those because I suck at Goss. I'm horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible at Goss.
The thing is with Gorse, right, is like if you're on Rubelite Oasis and one person's up on the castle, those high starting points, those peaks. With Gorse you can shoot across the map, but you're only doing a third damage or something, or half damage, because it's that long ranged. After these changes, you will be doing. I haven't done the exact math. I haven't gone to the map and checked the distance or anything. But let's just say you're doing, like 75 or 100% damage or something like that. Like you're actually hitting pretty hard, and you're not so upset about wasting your ammo on those kinds of shots. So, yeah, Gorse at extreme ranges could be quite much more of a force than it used to be, and this could help keep AC2 spam to a minimal, because Gorse, of course, you just need to poke, and at extreme range you can hit the AC2 mech.
Yeah.
Because right now AC2 can just stand in the open and says, nobody can hurt me unless they get within 600 meters, and at that range I can hit you reliably back. So yeah, Light Gorse changes though. Let's get cracking with this. They have increased its damage to 10, so it is now just a AC10 effectively, just with a long cooldown and whatnot.
And a faster velocity.
Yeah. Cooldown is actually being increased, so it's 3.5 second cooldown with half a second to charge the weapon. This is actually not bad. I kind of like the fact that 3.5 second cooldown with the court charge time means it has the same cooldown as PPCs, which is the natural thing you would normally sort of try and take with Light Gorse, and you can do that because they've removed Ghost Heat.
Jeez.
No Ghost Heat on Light Gorse rifles. If you fire a Light Gorse rifle with a PPC, the game does not care.
Okay.
So even though the DPS is going down and the damage heats up a bit, but the point is Light Gorse is extreme. It hits harder, it's longer ranged, and you can more easily fire 2 of them with a bunch of PPCs, like 3 PPCs, 2 Light Gorse on a Fafnir.
What's the velocity of PPCs though? Like to the Light Goss?
Oh, I'm thinking the PPCs are going to be much slower.
Okay.
So you could do 2 ER PPCs. Their velocity would match much more.
Okay.
But the point is, it's just you can boat them with PPCs together. Yeah. And that means even though we're not turning it into a DPS monster, it is a sniper. It can snipe with the sniper energy weapons. Your heat is used on the PPCs, and the Gorse just adds free damage on top of that. So if you have the tonnage, you can take Gorse, Light Gorse, and PPC. And yeah, this is a very interesting change. Gives unique utility to Light Gorse, and the cooldown change and how they've implemented it means it works very nicely with most PPCs.
Cool. Okay.
Like you could do 2 light Gorse and 4 light PPCs or something like that. The light PPCs have great DPS and no minimum range, so there's no drawbacks. They can't get to minimum range with you, and you don't have to contend with the heat and all the tonnage of ER beeps.
Well, we'll see what happens like when the patch comes out.
Yeah. Last one here that isn't a damage per second or damage per heat change is just the machine gun changes. Light machine guns spread is greatly reduced. So if you're at longer ranges with light machine guns, they won't tickle the entire mech.
Yeah.
They'll actually tickle, hopefully, the area that you're aiming at. So if you're aiming CT, it will hit mostly CT and maybe a bit the side torsos.
Yeah, the hero
rather than hitting
blackjack.
the legs. Yeah.
Yeah, the hero blackjack. I can't wait to actually use that now. That is awesome. Okay.
Yeah, they've also given a nice, decent buff to ammo for all machine guns, particularly light and heavy machine guns.
Okay.
This means you won't run dry as quickly.
Oh, this would be nice.
I think IS are getting more ammo than Clan, finally. This means, IS have a harder time taking MG boats in the first place. They have a harder time finding tonnage. So their MG boats will last longer with the same amount of ammo, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, cool. They will. Yeah. MGs are always a funny case because I don't really care for their damage per second or anything. They don't seem worth it. But at least, just like with AMS, if you make it easy enough to equip them, it's like, oh wow, it's 3 damage at close range. I'll take it.
Yeah. And certain builds are based off of like the blackjack hero build and a couple other ones basically. So yeah, true. I'm a fan of that. I'm cool. Cool. I'm good.
All right. Clan Daka changes. Let's just go. There's a lot that's very similar. UAX, the same DPS damage for heat changes, more or less. Autocannons are getting the same kind of damage per heat changes. The most interesting thing though is all the clan autocannons, 5, 10s, 20s, are firing 1 less pellet now.
I never figured out why they actually fired pellets. Was that just a design thing that they put in there, or something? I never figured out why they actually had that like in there compared to
I don't know. With
1 shot.
They basically just said, just give them the same. They fire the same as UAX, because they can't double tap, and that's all they did, and they left it like that forever. I still think clan autocannon should almost just fire a single pellet, just like in a sphere.
Yeah.
And then they are an interesting alternative choice to LBs and UAX because they take 1 more slot than ultra autocannons, and they're hotter, or at least I think they should be hotter than most LBXs.
Yeah, I just never figured out why they fired all those pellets. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But okay.
So now your AC5 is a single projectile, kapow.
Okay.
And your AC10 is 2 projectiles, just 2, kapow, kapow. And AC20 is 3 projectiles,
kapow, kapow, kapow.
So it's just like it's just like Innisphere ultra cannons.
Yeah. Okay.
This does have a knock-on effect that it changes your cycle time. Your weapon doesn't recycle until it stops firing the pellets. So clan autocannons, by a little side impact of this, I think are getting a DPS increase.
Okay.
Though they could fire the pellets over the same period of time. It's just, I don't know how it's going to be implemented when the patch comes. So for now, don't worry about it, but I'm thinking they're getting a 5% DPS increase. It's nothing to write home about. That DPS increase is just catching up with LBXs, basically.
Okay.
Clan LB20s, by the way, are getting one of the strongest damage per heat improvements in the game, even better than Snub. They are getting the same heat as Innisphere LB20.
Ooh, boy.
When we're talking these, we're only talking 1 or 2 heat differences, but I did like the fact that IS had less heat on its LB20 because you're spending so many more slots. Like it has to be in the side torso. Bringing Clan LB20 to the same level is a lot more scary, just because Clan can fit LB20s and side torsos in arms. You can take how much can you do in a die well? I know you could probably do LB80, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Do you like one each arm and then one each torso?
Yeah, that's my thought. And I think it's probably not tonnage efficient. I could be wrong, but you're running out of slots at that point, you know.
Yeah.
But the point is just that it will. This is I don't like necessarily watering down the differences between the tech bases, but in the end, people aren't worried too much about the heat of these weapons. It's only a minor change. I think you know I wouldn't have minded just reducing one heat rather than two, but it is what it is. Whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Dakka changes. Overall, at least a lot of the weapons are sort of underused. You know, the regular autocannon line, these all needed help. So, particular AC-20s on the IS side, you know, and velocity on both, of course, just to, mwah, finally, two AC-20s at once.
Now, like
Ultra
with the,
autocannons.
sorry,
Yep.
like with the Campfire 2 AC-20s, does that also include the UAC 20s?
I think UAC-20, it's still only one at a time.
Okay, because that's the problem that the Hunchback 2C had when firing those, both at the same time. It just overheated right then and there.
Hunchback 2C has a HSL quirk, so it can fire two Ultra 20s together.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Like before that. Like when I did the review, it was only one. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a quirk for the two Ultra 20 Hunchy for a while, but
Yeah.
yeah,
It's been a while since I did the review. So yeah.
yeah, we have reviewed that in the past, along with like the boiler got two Ultra 20s at the same time.
Yeah.
IS, I don't think is any double Ultra 20 mechs, at least quirked for it. You can space them out, but it's not a good idea, or at least it's just it's just so hot. Anyway, at least Ultra 2s, Ultra 20s, they certainly needed help. I still think there's a funny thing to be said with about Ultra autocannon balance, and I think the thing is double tapping with AC2 doesn't really make sense because AC2 is just spamming bullets anyway. So it's just it's like a rack with extra steps.
It looks cool. That's all. It looks cool.
Yeah, I'm just AC2s turning into Ultra autocannons isn't much of a change, like Ultra AC10 compared to AC10, and Ultra 20s as well as a brawler weapon. Um, you really dislike the heat inefficiency and jamming, the inconsistency of it. You know, they have very different requirements compared to Ultra 5s and Ultra 10s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in a ways, I would want to push ultras to be very different according to what size they are, so that each of them has a purpose. Because there's just so much overlap in the game right now. But you know, that's more complicated, and you know, this is a huge patch that they had to roll together relatively quickly, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Yep. And yeah, otherwise, yeah, Gorse rifles, more snipery, clan Gorse, a lot more HP, so it doesn't fall apart in an instant. I still think clan Gorse exploding for like 25 damage or whatever it is crazy.
Yeah.
And the 10 HP on the component isn't gonna last long, mate. Right. Finally, let's
Missiles.
go on to and yeah, racks. One thing I didn't touch on, racks. They will shake the cockpit less, so you're scaring noobs less with them.
Oh, that
So that's
sucks.
nice.
That's the whole point about them.
Yes, but you're still deleting the noobs, so
Yeah.
you know it's fine. Like I think that does actually balance out them on lower tiers. At least it's the right move to say, hey, racks are harmful to players who are scared by a shaking cockpit, and so therefore you do need to reduce that to make them less
Yeah.
powerful
Yeah.
at lower tiers
Yeah.
in some respects.
Okay.
All right, missile changes. Let's talk about SRMs. The SRM has been quite greatly reduced for both factions. The spread has been reduced, so they're going to be a lot tighter.
That's
It'll
good.
be it's really hard to tell from just these numbers exactly how tight the spread is. You know, it's just a number from another number, and I don't even know what the original number really means exactly. You know, so and then you can put Artemis on top of it, and there's quirks, blah blah blah. You have to wait and see. But yeah, SRMs more pinpoint, brilliant. They needed that kind of change, and SRM missile health also was vastly improved, particularly for like SRM sixes, you know, the larger launchers, which had very squishy missiles for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just you're specializing in short range, and the Corsair's still blowing up half your volley. Woohoo!
Well, the
Well,
Hemisphere can fire 5 Cert 4s together without Ghost Heat. That's gonna be interesting. I might have to change my
mhm.
one of my builds that I use for that. Okay.
Yeah, this is an interesting change. IS can fire, just 5 SRM4s together without Ghost Heat rather than 4. The thing is, IS is usually not that many hardpoints. So there's only so many mechs that can make use of it. I think the main candidates we're talking about is something like the Dervish, the Bushwhacker, there's an Archer, there's a Cyclops. When you're getting to 5 missile weapons on in a sphere, it's becoming quite a small pool of mechs that actually have the tonnage and want to take that kind of weapon load out.
Well,
Still,
like
it's
the
interesting
one we
change.
used on scouting. I forgot. Oh, damn it. The Kentaro. The one we used on scouting. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Kentaro has 5 missile
Yeah.
points. So instead of always being kind of awkwardly firing, 4 SRM6s and then the extra SRM launcher or whatever, you could just take 5 SRM4 and have a pretty good DPS and no ghost heat whatsoever to worry about.
Exactly. I might do that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's a good change.
Right. Up next, let's talk about MRM. MRM volley length is now proportional to its launcher size. So to explain, MRM40, you press the button and it streams out for over a half a second. And that's fine because it's firing a lot of missiles. The thing is, though, if you fire an MRM10, it goes over half a second.
Yeah.
About the same. It takes the same amount of time to fire an MRM10 as it does an MRM40. But the thing is, MRM10 is a quarter of the damage. It just felt so weak and pathetic firing over half a second. Whereas MRM40 or MRM30, you're getting a good amount of damage out in that time. You're happy with the volley duration.
Yeah.
So this is brilliant. I think MRM10s, I would take them on light mechs and they would feel awful because you're just stuck like firing these tiny little missiles out slowly, and it doesn't have a wham factor to it like the bigger launchers do. It just felt kind of weak and puny, and it gets shot down so much by AMS. So now it's proportional to their launcher size. So MRM20 fires in instead of half a second, a quarter of a second.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a good change. It makes sense. It does make sense.
Yes, and what this means is the DPS values over here does actually change.
Okay.
Because your MRM is firing, the smaller MRM launchers are firing faster, and the larger MRM40, they gave a cooldown improvement to, somewhat just bring it in line with the others, I think. So, yeah, I love this. This means smaller MRM launchers are a lot more viable, particularly on like smaller mechs. That was always the thing holding them back, the stupid and silly long volley duration. And that's been addressed. Perfect.
Cool. Okay.
Right. One thing to note is NUC changes. That isn't here listed, but NUC duration is reduced to 22 seconds rather than 30 seconds base.
That makes you happy?
That doesn't make me very happy.
It's a lot less now.
It doesn't change, of course, the quirked NUCs, which have an extra 15 seconds added on top anyway, and then you apply a 30% increase from skills. And if we're talking like Polar Highlands, you could kill that narked assault mech in 22 seconds rather than 30 seconds. It's not a big change. The problem here isn't things like narc's duration or its cooldown. It's the fact that indirect LRM can have incredible value for very little risk in the right circumstances. With indirect fire.
Yeah.
So I think this narc change feels very. It's just, at least duration change is it feels like PGI where it's just like, oh, we'll just fiddle with some numbers, now it won't be used, and it's like no. This hasn't changed how the game really plays at all. You just made it a little more inconvenient. Oh no, a little more inconvenient. They have also finally recognized and finally somewhat tried to address the difference between IS narc and clan narc.
Mm-hmm.
IS is 2 slots rather than 1, and it's 3 tons rather than 2. So you're spending a ton and an extra slot to have a weapon with shorter range.
Yeah.
Yeah, what? So what they've said is, okay, IS Narc has the same range as Clan Narc. Oh, okay, 1 ton and 1 more slot. Anything else? Oh, and they've improved the ammo count. Oh, that's nice. That can mean, even though I'm spending more tons on the Narc launcher, don't have to spend so much, or I can last longer with the ton of ammo I've taken with it.
True. Okay.
that's something. That's something at least. So yeah, it's not all bad for the narc. I do like finally giving IS narc some range and the ammo, but yeah, the duration thing is not really going to change the game. Not really going to change how crazy LRM can be.
Okay.
Right then, let's talk
Glenn.
about ATMs because streaks. You can get a whole bunch of stuff. So ATMs, I don't think, and at least with most people I talk with, I don't think most people are complaining about like an ATM light mech. If you're taking something like a Jenna with a whole bunch of ATMs, yeah, it's only going to do like ATM 18 or something. Same for like what's it, the Adder or whatever. You're not going too crazy with the light mechs. Even some of the smaller, like an Arctic Wolf, you can't, like, people don't have any issues with those. What they want to address though, and what they're doing in this patch is saying, okay, ATMs at close range do less damage. Because we don't like how people can fire like 3 ATM 12s together and like open up an assault mech or delete an assault mech or something like that. And I do agree, ATMs are one of the strongest missile systems in the game right now, and that's because you can take very large launchers and you can fire a lot of them together in one big homing alpha strike that can delete light mechs, small mechs, and do heavy damage to heavy mechs and assault mechs.
Yeah.
So they have reduced its upfront damage, and this does help reduce the alpha strike size of ATMs. And ATMs are in need of a nerf. However, this is a change that also reduces the ATM's effectiveness for smaller mechs, at least if you're playing them for that close range volley, which almost everybody is. And I think, ultimately, this is a roundabout change that doesn't actually address the main issue of ATMs, which is the fact that you can easily boat so many large launchers. And I think changing the ghost heat is more what you need to do with ATMs, and change the and then to stop people just firing, 212s and then 212s, you need to increase the gap between them. Though whether that can be implemented is another question.
Depends what PTI can do. So yeah.
Yeah. What their engineers can do, and how it's actually, whether it's hard coded into the game, how ghost heat works.
Yeah.
That's the tricky thing. But ultimately, we would want to see an ability to change the ghost heat window, because with clans, like with LRMs, the people just take like 6 LRM 15s and just fire a group of 2, a group of 2, a group of 2. Oh, the cooldown's done for the first one. Group of 2, group of 2, group of 2. And it does help space them out, but it doesn't actually change the boating. It doesn't stop you from boating, it just makes you play in a silly way.
True.
So whilst I think Ghost Heat is the answer in this case, or at least it should be, we have to be careful, because it's hurting the smaller mechs, and the mechs that weren't actually a problem. It is a warranted change, and for what they can do right now, the ATMs I am kind of fine with. ATMs have also, just to be noted, have been given a lot more missile health because they weren't tanky enough already, and they have been given more damage at long range. The long range damage does mean the damage curve is kind of evened out for ATMs. Like, if you can get a lock at any range, you could sort of use them. The biggest problem with ATMs, a fundamental issue for them, has just been the damage per ton. It's really hard to take enough ammo to keep the ATMs fed. For a reasonable match. And the thing is just at long range you could do damage, but you didn't want to, not because it didn't do damage, just because you were wasting your ammo. Like, when you before this patch, if you were firing at long range, every ton of ammo only gave you 150 damage, and that's with skill tree.
Yeah.
So, if I want to do 600 damage, I need to waste 4 tons of ammo at long range,
and that's if
and
they
that's
hit.
if every missile hits.
Yeah, if they hit, doesn't get shot down, or they get stuck behind or a guy jumps behind a building, or like whatever.
Yes.
So yeah, true.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes absolutely no blimmin' sense to fire at long range. But with this change, it means at short range, your ammo damage per ton is 300, which is kind of the same to MRMs before you buff them up and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So not bad. And damage at long range is 196, so about 200. 200 is kind of what you're getting for SRMs. It's a bit on the low side still.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, yeah, it's going to hit a lot of cover. It's going to be shot down by MS. you're going to lose the lock and it's just going to shoot the floor. So I feel like if we're going to even out ATMs to just do an average amount of damage at most ranges, we perhaps should be giving them less issues with ammo so that people just feel happy using ATMs all the time. Because right now, the ammo issues are forcing people or making it feel like I only want to use the ATMs up close.
Which you see a lot.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the damage up close is so great, and the ammo is really efficient at that range. So you only use it at that range. You don't want to fire at long range where it does a pathetic amount of damage.
Sure.
The other thing to note is heat scale limit of ATM 3s is going up, so you can fire 6 of them together rather than 4 without ghost heat.
Yep.
6 of them together is ATM 18 effectively, so that's fine. That's there's not many mechs that really want to use 6 ATM 3s. They are very slot hungry. I don't think I'm not even sure what mechs want to really do that, but for what it is, you can do it now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of mechs that's like, why in the hell would you put that on there? Try it out and see how it works.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
All right. Next up, let's just touch on IS streaks. They increased the cooldown on them, so that their DPS has gone down like 12% or so.
That's gonna be interesting though, because now I gotta rebuild some things like my Kentaro now. Because having the 4 or the 5, like I guess from 4, so I'm gonna change from the 6 to the 4 and just see what happens. But if it changes that, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen.
4s and 6s, the DPS is going down. So it's only streak 2s that keep the relative DPS.
Yeah. Oh well,
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this. Like, one thing they talked about, and I very much agree with, is the discussion on feast or famine. The idea being a huge ATM volley at close range deletes mechs. That's a huge feast, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you get your ATM 36 on a light mech, like a flea, it's a dead flea. That's amazing. That's a huge feast.
Yeah.
But if you aim at an AMS Corsair, or there's a couple AMS Corsairs at the enemy blob and you're firing, near them, they can delete like 2/3 of your volley, and you suddenly have a famine. And that's true. So ATMs, you say, all right, we increase the missile health so they don't get shot down, but we decrease their damage so that they don't delete mechs so much. Okay, yeah, that evens out the feast and the famine. There's less feasts and there's less famines. It's just everyone's having a healthy diet. Innisphere streaks though are extremely heavy for what they are, and they have huge issues with famine with AMS. Their missiles are incredibly squishy. Like, we're talking, you invest the same amount of tonnage for ATM 24 as you do streak 18. And the ATMs have something like twice the missile health, and after this change, they'll have about 3 times the missile health.
Jeez.
And the ATMs have twice the alpha strike and way more range and versatility. Blah blah blah. It's just, the streaks they have really good DPS. Don't get me wrong, but there's and one thing I've had when discussing with people is the point about, what is it? Streaks are used against lights, and it's like, well, yeah, you go to the flank and you kill any lights you find. You secure the flank. Well, now what? You're an anti-light mech. Well,
yeah, I mean that's part of what it is too, and then you could harass the other mechs that come in range.
Yeah, then you join the main fight.
Yeah,
because you've secured map control and you want to harass the enemy from the terrain you've captured.
Exactly.
So suddenly you go from feasting on light mechs to having your missiles shot down by the AMSs used by heavy mechs, because AMS is even easier to take now, and if it's so effective, why not just on heavier mechs it's only 1 ton. Why not take an AMS?
Yeah.
And there's more chance of AMSs on the field, so your missiles are getting shot down. You're paying a huge tonnage premium for it, and it's a sudden famine, and it's ridiculous. And
well, they're probably going to tweak it though. They'll look at it and hopefully they'll tweak it, and they'll talk to the cauldron guys, and they'll talk to their
Yeah.
golden dudes and figure out what's going to go on or how to tweak it just a little bit so it's not as AMS won't be shooting down like everything. Because I know, like, I mean, I love using AMS. Oh my god, I love using like AMS, and it is so much fun. It just denied them, but it just all depends what's going to happen like over the next course of like 2 to 3 months or something.
So what they talked about a little bit was like, oh, we want to balance IS streaks compared to SRMs and clan streaks, but this seems a little muddled because like the way I think about it is you spend 50% more tonnage compared to IS SRMs or clan streaks.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hefty premium, 50% more tonnage.
Yeah.
And before you used to get the same kind of DPS as you got from SRMs, or like 50% more, or even 100% more compared to clan streaks. But the thing is, you're paying 50% more tonnage, so you should get 50% more DPS, and you have shorter range after all. So, and you can't mix these streaks with ATMs. So, for IS, you did need that high DPS to contrast it with streak. There was a logic to it. And what happens now, because they're increasing the DPS of clan streak, is that you're spending 50% more tonnage for 14% more DPS, or 25%, depending on which launcher you're looking at. Still, 50% more tonnage for 14 or 25% more DPS on a faction that has less tonnage to play with, that has, squishy XL engines, that doesn't have as many hard points. Like, with clan, you could boat 6 SRM, streak 6 on a huntsman or something like that. But on a 50 tonner for IS, you're happy when you get streak 18.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe at a 50 tonner you can do streak 18 plus streak 2 or something. But it's not the same at all. And these streak changes in general at least seem a little bit out of touch. So let's last one on the docket. Clan streaks. They are reducing the upfront damage because they're worried about the huge alpha strikes that clan can do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that does make sense. And they're saying, okay, what we're doing is reducing upfront damage, but we're greatly reducing the cooldown. And we're also going to touch up the heat and ammo a bit. The thing is, though, whilst DPS has gone up, and that's interesting, that is good. That is pretty good. Your ammo efficiency is going down, your heat efficiency going down, the heat per second's going up. Like, these weapons are hot or getting hotter to use. So that means you're kind of encouraged to boat them even more, and they're going to delete light mechs even faster. It hasn't even addressed the problem.
Well, with any change, they'll look at it. Hopefully they'll look at it. Basically, like once a bunch of those light mechs starts getting deleted, they'll figure out. There'll be enough like cry on the board saying, "Hey, what's going on here? All lights getting killed." So they'll figure it out because I love killing lights.
I think of all the changes, the thing that I heard the most people talking about was obviously the changes to streaks, and people saying quite rightly, I think IS streaks were hardly taken in quick play in the first place right now.
Mm-hmm.
So why nerf them? This is one of the few weapons you've actually nerfed, and it was not really justified.
Mm-hmm.
On clan streak side, it's a weird side grade that doesn't actually address the issues with feast and famine. They feast more against light mechs, but they still get shot down by bigger mechs, and they have to stand against the bigger mechs and get killed by them even more. So this is oddly encouraging clans to just sort of bum rush light mechs with their streaks, which wasn't even the game plan before. Like, the difference was IS, you bum rush the light mechs with your streaks because IS is the upfront close range DPS faction. And you're like, oh no, DPS, that's scary. Let's get rid of the DPS. And then just like with the clan faction, the hit and run faction, the more ranged faction, you're like, streak and ATM is used together, so the clan can, skirmish with light mechs. Instead of skirmishing with the light mechs, let's just run them down. Okay. This just means you've got squishy clan mechs charging in like they're thinking they're IS mechs. What's even going on with these changes? They're all over the place. And fundamentally, the main issue is just that, lock-ons, all the missiles hit against smaller mechs. And you can't fix that with these kinds of changes, with these simple XML changes. You need to change how lock-ons work so that they miss more often against smaller mechs. And that's something you need to do in the long run. Just like they didn't touch LRMs because LRMs are a nightmare to balance. Don't touch the streaky boys. Streaky boys have the same kind of issues that you need a more fundamental game code change to make more consistent for everybody.
Well, think with all these changes, like overall, I don't mind them. If it looks like this, I'm okay with it. But of course, I'm not a big numbers person. I'm more of just a lore, play the game type guy. But like overall, though, like it looks okay. The only thing that's gonna really kill me is a couple of my builds, especially the Kentaro and a couple more will be kind of like iffy. I'm gonna just have to rebuild them basically. But overall, though, it looks good. It looks halfway decent. Nice.
I think a lot of these changes, and most of them are somewhat on the right track.
Yeah.
I think though, obviously my issues are, this field of red in the center with missiles, that there are fundamental issues with missiles that they can't really fully address, and just filling with the numbers is kind of feels like PGI, where they're just floundering around in the water and they're not really getting anything actually done. They're just slightly fiddling around with the meta. When lock-ons, clan lock-ons, you can put so many launchers together and fire huge alpha strikes. Well, you need to find a proper way to stop clan from going so silly with their lock-on missiles. Lock-ons need to be fair against smaller mechs. Like the thing is, with a ballistic weapon or an energy weapon, you're more likely to miss a flea than you are an Atlas. So it balances the game. Even though the flea is not squishier, it's getting hit less as long as it's being played correctly. Whereas the Atlas is always taking damage, or the Direwolf, or any other heavy assault mech. So that way, even though you have a larger hit point total, your people are having more effective DPS against you.
Yeah.
With streaks, though, with ATMs, with lock-ons, that rule doesn't apply. You always do full damage, and that's the problem. And so address that problem first, and then we can figure out the numbers.
Well, basically like nothing's set in stone, so they could do it. Basically, they'll figure something out. Which I have faith on that. So
I hope
it's
so.
good.
Yes.
It's good. I mean, overall, like I said, it's not bad.
Let me just finish my missile discussion, which is AMS. Just the AMS destroys X missiles is heavily punishing to smaller mechs, and making them more usable, and only making certain weapons more resistant to AMS is lopsided. Like streaks are falling further and further behind. They're beginning a bigger and bigger famine when AMS is around.
Yeah.
And that's a fundamental design problem in the game right now. Just as that AMS is a roll of the die, and missiles have a lot of problems, and in a way, nerfing them encourages people not to take these weapons that have fundamental design issues. I will agree with them in that respect. But I think in the long run, I'm a huge lock-on missile fan, and these changes seem out of touch, or like they got a PGI temp employee in to do that for them, and that's not good. We don't need more PGI patches. We just had that March.
yeah, we did. Yeah.
But in the overall, it's very good, and I do have faith for these. I hope that these issues will hopefully be heard and addressed in future when we have more time to do them.
True. We'll figure it out. Basically, like over time, it'll all even out just like everything does. So it's not bad. Not bad.
We'll see. This is a big, huge, sweeping change to the game that will mix things up and make things interesting, much more so than the last patch, where it just became a huge, weird sniper fest and everyone stopped using their mask mechs.
Yes.
Now it's like, oh boy, there is so many more builds to try, so many weapons I haven't used in ages. I want to give them a roll. It's just like, oh boy, this is, throw away those lock-on weapons and let's try some direct fire, laser boating, PPC, AC auto-cannoning. Yeah, the bits that actually are automatically balancing themselves out.
You bring up a good point, actually, just like you said, basically like people try new and different things. And so that's what actually in my mind right now, because I want to try different builds. I want to try some different things that, like, I think, okay, this would be kind of cool to have this type of build. Now I'll probably rearrange some of my Rack 2 builds to Rack 5s and see what happens. And so actually, like, it gets you thinking. It gets people actually going into the game and wanting to do some changes to it and see how they work. And then if they work well, then they go ahead and use them, like, multiple times. And so, like, it just opens up that door. it just opens up that door for people to try different things now, and that's good. That's what
Gets the
PGI
ball
needs.
rolling finally.
Yeah,
Like this is what Darren wanted in the March patch,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we're finally getting it. And that is the advantage, at least, of working with the community, because the community has a much better idea than what PGI will have when they just get the temp worker in to scramble together some changes in the last minute. Like these are much better thought out. They're much more of have an impact on the game and much more fulfill what PGI wanted. And most important of all, arty strikes won't nuke people anymore.
Exactly. Well, these are good. Like these are good changes. So is that it for the 143? Going for the balance changes coming up. And,
I think so.
Obviously we're gonna be talking about like afterwards
the
too.
only last point we're saying is how things will go forward. All I can say is at least a fair number of people in the Cauldron have been active in the forums and whatnot. I've had a chat with them. One of them yesterday for a few hours, so it's quite fun. But hopefully, of course, they will hear the community's feedback and will be given the opportunity, because they are only really being given the opportunity by PGI, is the impression I've got. They will be given the opportunity to see how these changes impact the game and for them to address them in the future. Like if Clan Laser Vomit starts dominating and Rack 5s delete everyone in lower tiers or whatever, hopefully they will look at it again.
Okay. Yeah. I'm on par with it. Basically, at first I'm kind of like, but after looking at changes a little bit and seeing how they actually affect everything, it's going to be fine. I'm actually excited about doing different builds. In fact, I'm actually excited about the new event to get the new mech. I'm like, wow, this is going to be cool. It's pretty easy to do too.
That.
Yeah.
We can talk about next week. But yeah, everyone's getting a meta Mad Cat. So all these weapon changes. Well, don't use them. Just use the Ultra 10s and Ultra 5s to delete all the new dragons and thunderbolts.
Exactly.
And all the weird, wacky builds people taking out.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone, that was episode 143 of the Balance Changes. Just kind of checking things out, see what's going on. The First Circuit podcast. Tonight we have sorry.
Nope.
We have Miter. Ian's not here.
Hello.
Hello. And myself, Bob10025. Thank you for watching, everyone. We do appreciate everything you guys do for the community and everything you do for everything. So just watching us. So you guys have a good night. We'll see you on the battlefield.